5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
How about we do it again?
6, 7, 4, 3, 2, 1. I think I followed it.
Okay, let's try one more
I
time.
definitely.
Ready?
I can move you. Making review. Making review.
Say 6,
6,
5,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, podcast listeners. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Rank and Review. This week, your host and random Canadian Larry Parsons and his guest Rick Fehr are going to be discussing zombies. It's been so long since we've discussed zombies, and with a lot of these larger episodes that we've had around us, it's sort of nice to be back in my comfort zone. I was able to introduce a couple of really cool zombie movies to Rick, and I hope I can do the same for you. But as you proceed, you must remember, there will be spoilers, there will be coarse language. So, let's get this episode out from the grave and shambling around. Thank you so much for listening to Rank and Review. Please send your feedback to ranknreview@gmail.com. That's ranknreview@gmail.com. Well, winter has arrived.
In spades.
In spades, it's true. And I got Rick Fehr back in my basement. And
Howdy.
Today I'm thrilled to say we're going to talk about zombies.
Zombies.
It's been a while since we've had a zombie episode, and the podcast had been going through something of a drought in genre. So, zombies are one of my favorite things.
Ditto.
We were just talking about how zombie fatigue is maybe setting in
Yep.
the rest of the world, but not me.
Not in my heart. No.
I've been waiting for the zombie renaissance for so long to not just completely embrace it.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah, I'm on board with The Walking Dead, and if there's especially a big budget zombie movie that's coming out, oh yeah, I'll see it.
Definitely I'll see it.
Did I see the final chapter of Resident Evil? Yes, I did.
Hell yeah. I enjoyed it. It got raked over the coals, but I enjoyed it.
It's almost a sound-off movie.
Yeah,
but
it's a send-off. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah.
But I've always loved zombie movies since I was a kid. But when I was a kid, it was more like I liked the gore, and I liked sort of like the cringe aspect of this stuff. In a way, I liked what people mostly dismiss about it first. The longer I watched zombie movies, the more I saw more in them. The more I thought, like, well, yeah, I mean, Frankenstein is scientific folly, and Dracula is sex and violence. The zombie is whatever you want it to be.
Whatever you want to be. And there's all kinds of social commentary intertwined in a lot of the zombie movies that are out there.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, it needs to have a little of that in order to be a real zombie movie.
Especially in this day and age.
Yes.
Like, now that we do see so many zombie movies, you're going to have to bring something.
You have to, yeah. And looking back at some of the old ones, you could bring them back to this day and age, and it's totally appropriate.
Yeah.
Totally apt.
Well, that's what I want to say about these movies that we're going to talk about today. Like, I like zombie movies, so generally speaking, I think I'm going to be more positive than negative today. But I like zombie movies, right? So I'm sort of judging it from that.
I might go the other way. I might be a little more hard on it just because I love zombie movies so much, and the zombie genre in general, that I'm pretty picky about what's enjoyable. Don't get me wrong, I'll watch a really bad zombie movie all day, any day, but it does mean I won't pick it apart.
Well, that's the thing that the digital age has brought to me. When I rented movies, or when I was, first starting collecting movies, I was kind of the opinion that when you start a movie, you see it through.
Yeah.
You see it through. No matter how tough, maybe they'll pull it out in the third act. Right?
Yeah.
now with all these streaming services and all like the sheer volume of independent horror movies that are out there.
You
give it,
just
like,
can't keep up.
Yeah,
There's no way.
You can't keep up. And if I'm like 40 minutes into this hour and 45-minute movie and it's brutal,
You'll tap out.
I'll tap out.
That's
and
respectable.
I used to not do that. I used to be like, try to find a way into this movie. Enjoy the bad.
That's because the choices weren't as plentiful as they are now, man. Back then, you had to watch it because you had nothing else.
Early 90s, I'd bump into a movie like Dead Alive or Cemetery Man, and I would just tell everybody, you have to watch these movies. Now, if you watch them today, they're kind of crude and like vulgar and weird. But when you're hungry for zombie cinema, and this is
all gold,
presented, and I'll still defend both those movies, by the way. But
there's nothing wrong.
But today, 2017, if you're going to bring the zombies, you got to bring an added layer. Not all of these movies are obviously from 2017, but we're going to be watching them from the perspective of 2017.
Definitely.
Is there anything you want to say before I list off these movies and we...
No, let's get to some fucking brain eating, man.
All right, the 6 zombie movies that Rick Fehr and I are going to discuss today, we have from Canada, from Bruce McDonald, director of Hardcore Logo and many other things, Canadian, Pontypool. We have the zombie blockbuster starring Bradley Pitt, World War Z. We have Seventh Moon from the director of the Blair Witch Project. We have a real throwback. This is called The Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue, but it has a few other different titles that it's lived under. But this case says The Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue. And in case that's not British enough, we have a British TV show called Dead Set. And we will wrap things up with a Kiwi zombie comedy, sort of. Called
zombie-ish, I guess.
It starts funny, and then I think they kind of lose it, but we'll get there.
We'll get there, yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Let's do it.
This is Radio 660, The Beacon. I'm Grant Mazzy, and as always, I'll be taking no prisoners. And taking a look outside. A big, cold, freaking kill me now weather front that'll last all day. We go to Ken Loney in the Sunshine Chopper. Ken, are you there, Ken?
This building has just exploded. Oh my God! Hundreds of people are getting killed down there.
Soldiers have set up roadblocks.
Everybody has to stay inside at all times. They cut into our signal.
Oh God! They're pulling 2 people out of a van.
Ken?
And their eyes. He's looking at me.
Okay, so Pontypool. This is based off of a series of novels written in Canada by Tony Burgess, not Anthony Burgess,
Not Anthony
Clockwork
Burgess,
Orange, but Tony Burgess.
Yep. I had to look that up to make sure.
No, not the same dude.
Yeah.
It's an interesting series of books. I mean, it's almost pretentious zombies in a way. The type of zombie that we get into, and we'll talk about it more when we're talking about the movie, the infection is inside our language. Mm-hmm. So you hear too much people saying too much at once, and you become a zombie just by hearing the chatter of these strange zombies. What struck me about reading the book, which isn't in the movie necessarily because it's a low-budget movie, is that the zombies as described are very similar to what we are going to see when we talk about World War Z.
Oh, okay.
The way that they swarm or herd or they vomit out of the front window of a building. Like it's almost one big moving, roiling mass.
I haven't read the book, so...
They seem purposed somehow, right? And it's interesting how World War Z kind of realized Pontypool instead of realizing World War Z. But getting back to this, what we have here is a Canadian zombie catastrophe. It's set in a small town of Pontypool with a new radio DJ who feels like he's really fallen from grace. Like
that's in Ontario for all you.
He's recording this radio, local news, school closings, and he used to be a much bigger deal, and now he sort of has to eat it.
And he just hates himself.
He hates himself. He's not very nice with the people that he's working with, but he is in the position where he's not only reporting on this zombie crisis, but unbeknownst to him, he's spreading it. Stephen McHattie plays the main character. I think he's very strong in it. And I think from a technical standpoint, although I've always been a Bruce McDonald fan, this is one of his best directed films. So yes, I'm coming in a fan of Pontypool, but I would love to hear what Rick has to say.
Well, coming in as a Pontypool virgin, I'd never actually seen the movie, which is a major oversight, and I've never actually read the book.
Right.
And the idea of a different kind of zombie virus, the zombie virus that we create ourselves just with our words, very interesting to me, and super apt for today's day and age with the
Ahead of its
fake
time.
news, quotation, air quotes there.
Absolutely.
The fake news, like it's just, you could throw that in right today and it would totally fit.
The message is the problem. By trying to save people from the zombies, they're making more zombies.
We see that every day. All you gotta do is go on Twitter and Facebook, man, and it's just crawling with the brain dead zombies spewing forth the things that they hear.
Another interesting thing is that because of the way it's written, it could be a stage play and has been a radio play. It has been done just as an auditory sort of performance.
Oh, okay.
So we're not going to see all of these swarms of zombies. We're going to hear descriptions of it from people who are calling in. It's like that old Eric Bogosian stage play, talk radio, in a lot of ways, only instead of the evil being, racism or extremism, the evil becomes this really strange zombie epidemic. And I do think that's the hardest sell of the movie. I think that it's kind of more interesting in the movie and in the books because they can really dig into it.
Dig in, yeah.
So it makes a little bit more sense, but whereas I felt the book sort of tipped towards pretentious at times, the movie never did for me.
I didn't feel it pretentious at all.
The tension works. Even though we see barely any violence, it's a scary movie. That means there's a talented filmmaker.
Exactly, yeah. You don't need to rely on showiness to tell a story. I think the fact that the cure was also the disease. Like, you cured the disease by words.
Yes.
When at the end where he's like, kill his kiss, and he brings her back, right?
Yeah.
I think that was very interesting. And once again, apt. The only way to defend the brain dead zombies out on the Twitter sphere and everything like that is to kill them with the actual facts.
You can't,
right?
They get stuck repeating a certain phrase.
Yep.
That's how that sort of starts being symptomatic. And then I go to, like these social media platforms that just will keep reinforcing your belief system.
Yep.
If you click on Huffington Post, you'll get a bunch of
Huffington Post stuff.
If you click on Fox News, you'll get a bunch of Fox News, right?
You never see the other side because the interwebs tells you this is what you like, this is what we're going to give you.
So you get stuck in this talking jag, crazy is killing. Is killing crazy? Is kill crazy? Kill? They
crazy.
get kind of stuck in this little loop.
Yep.
And then they just start repeating whatever they hear.
Yeah.
In order to get out of that loop, they'll just latch on to anything. Literally anything.
Yeah.
And again, the social commentary there is pretty strong.
Pretty strong, yeah.
If you think you're turning into a zombie, you will latch onto anything. You won't think about it because anything to not be a zombie, right?
Yep.
It's not good decision making.
No.
It's interesting how the Stephen McHattie character just intuits the solution to this.
Well,
we have to stop talking in English. We have to talk baby talk to each other in a way that we can understand what we're saying, but not using the actual language as intended.
It's actually pretty smart the way it's done. Actually, the character is actually written very intelligently. The way he has to figure it out, like you said, on his own, just from hearing stuff that people phoning in. That poor reporter out on the scene who gets myrtleized.
Well, first he just describes everything, and then we hear him falling apart and eventually becoming one of the herd, as he refers to them. And I like that we hear the story from other people. This sort of goes back to zombie cinema history too. Night of the Living Dead. A lot of people forget how much of that movie they're crouching around a TV, watching the TV reports, or listening to the radio, trying to figure out What are we supposed
What's
to do?
going on? Yeah.
What's happening and what do we do? Which is real. It's what you would do.
That is exactly what you would do. 50 years ago, today,
Yeah.
that's what you do.
But in a movie, that usually kills everything. So the fact that this is set in the basement at this radio station at Ground Zero in Pontypool, Ontario, where this is all happening. And you're getting all sorts of crazy theories. The BBC insists that it's...
Right, the BBC. Yeah,
it's the French separatists that are doing all of
yeah
this.
the French-Canadian
And they're like,
separatists, yeah.
We're pretty sure French separatists aren't biting people and, turning their dying corpses into wailing babies.
I don't know, have you met any French separatists?
I know intimately some French, but that's my cross to bear. But it's just interesting because you're desperate for any answer. So this must be the answer. That is the answer.
You just grab onto whatever you can because that's all you have.
And that's terrible reporting. Like if someone just thinks it's a bunch of French separatists out there, they're gonna grab the old shotgun and walk out on the porch.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's the whole mob mentality, right?
Yeah.
That's whatever you see, that's what it is.
Yeah. I also like the relationship established between Stephen McHattie and his producer. I can't remember the name of the
I just remember her name.
It's interesting because they seem to have a lot of friction at the start of the movie because she, as far as she's concerned, he's a get because he was a big name and now he's in her radio station. But he feels like he's slumming it. So as a result, he's beaking off. He's being a little harder on the radio than he maybe should be for a small town audience. And he knows it. And they butt heads. But what you see, the bonding, not just through the traumatic experience, is that relationship, however, Caddy, is built on a mutual respect. And I really like seeing that. Like, at the beginning of the movie, they like each other, but they're not getting along. By the end of the movie, they're completely reliant on each other.
Yeah. Even at the beginning, when there were conflict, you could definitely tell that there was, like you said, a mutual respect between the two. Times they hated each other, but there was always that thread, right, that keeps them going in a relationship. And as you went throughout the movie, you saw it develop more into what it became.
The character's name was Sydney Breyer, and the actress is Lisa Houle. I hope I'm saying that right. The other character I wanted to talk about...
The assistant?
Yes. Georgina Riley. She kind of seems starstruck by the McHattie character. Like, this is big radio as far as she's concerned. And she's stashing alcohol in the place for him. She's also a combat veteran. She's home from Afghanistan. So whenever he mentions her, like, our local hero is in the office. And we don't get a lot of time with her, but because everybody likes her, we kind of like her. And seeing her turn is really troubling. Because she was just an earnestly nice person, a heroic person, and just slowly just watch her smashing her
face into the window.
It's just this soundproof window glass that'll encase the
sound booth.
And she just keeps on hitting her face again
and again
and again and again, and she's getting more and more fucked up as a result. And it's so upsetting.
You just want to go, please stop.
Just stop, girl. Just go lay down. Time out.
Yeah.
You know? And it's really bad for her because they respond to sound. She can't hear them. She can only see them, and in a way it's making it worse for her. Yeah. And again, just the sound, that hollow thung, thung, thung of her face.
And the fact that he just has to sit there and watch because he has such an admiration and respect for her. Yeah. Right?
There's a Dr. Mendez that shows up, played by Grant Almanac, another Canadian actor. He has the trickiest part of the movie, I think, because he is supposed to be the guy who intuits that it's carried through language.
Okay.
We know that his practice was demolished by these things and that he was at Ground Zero and escaped them somehow. But from that to him making the leap to this is how its virus is spreading, this is the early symptoms of the virus, these people are hunting us even before they realize they're hunting us. I don't know where he's got that information other than he's read the books.
Right? Because he literally came from a siege, basically, right? Because that his practice was the one under siege.
And considering he ran from his destroyed practice, he seemed to be feeling the stakes less than Stephen McHattie and the Lisa Houle character.
Well, in a sense, he was more cut off than McHattie was.
Well, and McHattie, for the first while, starts thinking that people are fucking with him. He doesn't really believe it, but he almost tries to flee the radio station. Like, and it's like, are you guys are just messing.
You're
with me,
fucking with
right?
me, guys.
Like, this is a joke. This is all a big laugh. Ha 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 ha. And I love the way he plays it off because you can tell he doesn't believe that what he's saying.
Yep.
But he just wants to run, which is again a very
Human thing to do.
So I guess I'm saying I'm a big fan of Pontypool. Like, McDonald is a prolific filmmaker, but he's often made promises that he's going to do more. There's supposed to be Pontypool changes, and Pontypool changes everything, or so he says.
Right.
But it's been, 10 years since the first one came out. So this may be all we get out of the Pontypool cycle.
And if that's the case, then it ends on a high note.
It really does.
Yeah.
It really does. If you ever have the opportunity to watch Pontypool again, stay till after the credits are over. There's about a 15-second scene that I do not understand.
Oh, really? I didn't.
That I would love for somebody to puzzle out for me.
Okay.
And we don't have to go into it now, but I'll put that out there for the Rank and Review listeners as well. The last 15-second scene at the end of the post-credits of Pontypool. What does it mean?
I'll have to look into that.
Is there anything else you want to say about Pontypool?
No, I think we covered it. I enjoyed it. Good Canadian movie. Some good Canadian content. Always good.
Gotta love the Canadian content.
Totally.
Different spin on the zombies. Very theatrical presentation. Very good acting.
And you don't need gore to make a good movie.
No, it's solid as a rock.
Does it live in a jungle?
No. Oh.
Is it really fast?
No.
Does it live on the Great Plains of Africa?
No.
Hey!
What is going on? Hold on, guys.
Daddy, be careful on the road.
Jerry?
Get back in your car right now! Remain with your vehicle!
Are you okay?
We're getting out of here.
Terry, what is this?
It's the scene worldwide. Is anyone doing better than we are?
We don't know.
I'm scared.
How do we know they're coming?
They're coming.
So, World War Z. Here's the thing. I mean, I love the book.
Book was great.
Love the book. Which makes it hard to love the movie. Like, right out of the gate.
Right out of the gate.
Like, my question to Brad Pitt, I mean, obviously he wanted the rights because he thought it would be a big hit, and he was right. This is the largest grossing zombie movie in history, period.
Essentially, he was right, but carry on. I'll let you finish your thought.
I don't understand getting in a bidding war for the rights to World War Z, which he did with, I believe, Leonardo DiCaprio's film company.
Oh, well,
so
was
if
it?
it
Okay.
wasn't Brad Pitt, it was going to be
Leo,
But
okay.
Brad brought more cash to the table. So they were basically like, they'd spent almost $50 million on the movie before they'd started to make the movie, right? And it obviously went through many permutations. They obviously decided they were going to go ambitious at scale. And someone thought, you know what would be cool? Let's change up the zombies. And after one change to the next change to the next, they made a fairly interesting upscale zombie movie. But they did not make World War Z.
It was not World War Z.
And if you're going to call your movie World War Z,
You better bring some World War
you
Z
should
to
do
it.
that. I could say that, like, on an A, B, and C, it's a completely adequate zombie movie. But I'm so pissed off that it's not World War Z.
Yeah, exactly.
That it kind of, like, there's this stinging quality. So upon revisiting it, I was trying to remove myself from that. Like, I remember before it was coming out, when you hear the announcements about it, I'm like, how are they going to do this? Is it going to be a faux documentary?
Yeah,
Is it
exactly.
gonna be an
It's going to be
anthology?
segments,
There's no
like
through-line
creep show
character-
type deal thing, but
with no real through-line character in the book except for the interviewer,
Yeah.
which would be a very passive character. I mean, changes would have to be made.
because
But
the story's not about him.
I'm trying really hard to find isolated moments in the movie that I recognize from the book. So
I don't know, the beginning credits, maybe? If the book had a beginning credits.
They didn't even want to do the ground patient zero thing. In the book, they're swimming this village that has been drowned by a tsunami or something like that. I don't remember the specifics. And one of the divers gets bit. He doesn't even know by what. And he's patient zero.
Yeah.
But the movie won't even do that because they didn't want to blame China on the zombie epidemic. Stupid, right?
Yes, it was pretty ridiculous.
So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to say, if I hadn't read World War Z, and if World War Z, the novel, didn't exist, how does this show up? In that case, I think it's about a C minus movie with A+ production value.
The production value was, there's no denying the production value.
It's a little computery for me at times.
Yeah,
but it's ambitious.
The scenery was great. The overhead shots of Jerusalem, I believe it was, amazing shots with the walls, the zombies climbing the walls.
Yeah.
Plus, it depends on what school of thought you are with your zombie love, right? So I'm a Romero zombie guy, right? Romero's zombies trudge. They don't bolt or run, and these guys were like supercharged.
Yeah,
like they didn't just run, man. They fucking ran.
Their closest ancillary is 28 Days Later and the Rage Virus.
The Rage Virus, which technically not zombie. But anyway, that's for
we
another
can
day.
get into
Yeah.
We can do that. But if you get bit by one of these things, it's not a matter of hours or days.
It's like
seconds.
Yep.
And they are super aggressive and fast. And I think because of the remake of Dawn of the Dead and 28 Days Later, that's just kind of where we're at with a lot of zombie movies.
That's just the reality of it right now.
And it does up the stakes when these things are running at you full tilt, right?
Well, it ups your stakes if you're being chased by one of them. Yep.
But I think what you see there with those types of movies, the really aggressive, running, bitey zombies, those movies want to scare you. Those slow-moving Romero zombies, that's when you get into some of the sort of social satire and some of the meatier stuff, because people have time to take a breath and deal with this world. So basically the synopsis is Brad Pitt is a retired military guy of some personal import. Like he's really connected. He's
got ins and everywhere, right?
He could be as far up as some sort of Jason Bourne type figure. His exact what he did for the government is never really made clear, but he's the guy they go to find ground zero of this crazy zombie outbreak that's happening. That's what I'm going to say that World War Z does really well. Some of my favorite stuff in zombie movies is usually in the first half an hour when shit's just starting to fall apart.
Shit hits the fan, yeah.
And there's that time where people are like, "This will be okay, right? It's getting crazy, but they're gonna harness this. They're gonna
they'll get it under control. It'll be fine.
Absolutely.
It'll be fine. The people in charge will get it under control.
The powers that be, and then the slow realization, the slow horrifying realization that that's not necessarily the case. And really, that scene in the middle of downtown where we see the zombies plowing through like all these cars and all these collisions and all the panic. There's people. Some of the top-down shots where you're seeing literally hundreds of people running away from hundreds of zombies.
Great.
The scale of it.
The scale was amazing. Yes.
Like on a big screen, I was like, "This is fun. This is awesome." But it's not World War Z.
Well, that's the thing, right? Because I went to the movie. With movies that I know I'm going to see, I tend not to watch the trailers,
right?
Because I know I'm going to see it anyway. You don't need to sell me on it.
Yeah.
So I didn't watch any of the trailers for World War Z. I just wanted to go in blank, see what happens, and it bore no resemblance to anything I thought was going to happen.
It's impossible to shake it off, too.
No, you can't.
Like, there's a sequence that takes place on an airplane, which shows an outbreak.
Oh,
on
the
real
airplane
time.
scene, yes.
It's fucking amazing.
Yes.
But it's in the middle of a movie. It's just another chapter in this movie that, you know, I almost feel like you could reshuffle all the scenes, and as long as you started in the same place and ended in the same place, that the movie would
You'd be fine,
completely fine. It's totally made of these. Now he goes to this sequence, and on this rainy night, these military blokes are going to try and bail him out.
Yeah.
And it's going to
over here, the doctors in where did he land?
I think they were in
Wales. Yeah, doctors in Wales. He's got to search out the Wales dog. The detective stuff was him being the detective and trying to work it out was kind of interesting to me. How he got there, maybe not so much.
And to the film's credit, again, it does some pretty crazy shit. Like that plane crash should have killed everybody.
Well, he's the only survivor. Come on.
No,
well, besides
he and
the
his
other,
sidekick, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, the two people who we know survived that plane crash.
Right.
And right now, I'm kind of like, yeah, that's fucking stupid. But I tell you, when I was watching the movie,
It looked amazing.
I bought it, and I just went with it. Another thing, like, it's still a passable movie. It's sort of surprising is that because of how much they were fucking with it, the main character from Lost, what's that actor's name?
You need to get an assistant.
Matthew Fox.
Matthew
Fox. Okay. Matthew Fox had a major part in this movie. Apparently, while Brad Pitt was gallivanting around the world, his family was in risk of being kicked off the boat. So his wife ends up hooking up with Matthew Fox in order to buy her family safe passage on this boat. And there's some conflict between him and Brad Pitt as a result. All edited out of the movie. And you can see Matthew Fox in the scene where they're going on the rooftop. Another great sequence where the zombies are chasing them and they're getting on board this helicopter. And as
Up the flight of stairs, yeah.
As the helicopter's flying away, the zombies are just carelessly running off the edge of the building and falling to their doom. They don't give a fuck.
They got the mindless zombie part right, because, man, they were just bolting.
But if you look, it's a blink and you miss it. Yeah, that's Matthew Fox. And he had a whole bunch to do with the movie. Gone.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
The entire ending in Wales with the refrigerator unit and the zombie and finding not necessarily a cure, but a way so that if the zombies thought you were sick, they didn't want to eat you.
Yeah.
Terminally sick. It made you zombie proof, right? But all of that invented on the fly and reshot fairly shortly before the movie came out. This movie shouldn't work. This movie shouldn't work at all. This should be like an enthusiastic thumbs down. But I can't say that it's a thumbs down review. It's big budget zombie. It's well executed. I just wish it wasn't called World War Z.
Yeah, if I'm looking at it standing alone, it's a fun romp, to be sure. It's a great movie to go to a theater to. I can't give it an enthusiastic thumbs up by any stretch. I don't know if I can give it a thumbs down, but I'll give it a sideways thumb.
Yeah, well, that's what I said.
Maybe I'll give him the finger, give Brad Pitt the finger. How's that?
I'm saying somewhere between a C and a C minus for me. But I don't know how much of that is the baggage I'm carrying into it. And it's further frustrating now. I feel like they've shot the bed so thoroughly that this world isn't World War Z, but because it made $500 million domestically or whatever, a sequel's in the works.
Of course. And word on please let the sequel be the book.
David Fincher.
Oh, really?
Has been tapped to direct it. Now, maybe he'll back out because he backs out of a lot of projects, but David Fincher directing a large-scale zombie movie, that is fucking interesting to me.
I'm in.
But again, would it be World War Z 2? And is he gonna take all the stuff that we've learned from this first book? Are terminally ill people immune? Are the zombies still gonna flock? Because in the books, I still pictured them as Romero sort of classic form zombies,
where you stand in a line and just mow them down as they come marching down the road.
And stuff that I want to see. In the book, there's a whole sequence where a military post stands their ground, and this wave after wave of zombies.
Exactly the scene I was talking about,
And the zombies are piling up on each other and creating like a fucking hill.
Zombie pile,
And they're running out of bullets, and they just have to keep going and keep going. That would be an amazing scene.
Right? There's
a chapter where this pilot has to jettison out of his plane, and he ends up walking and trying to communicate over a radio to get help for people to find him. And I remember reading the book thinking, oh, this would be a really great sequence in a zombie movie. Where is it?
It'd be terrifying, right? That would be absolutely terrifying.
The potential is so great. And they spent millions of dollars getting it. So why isn't it on screen, Rick? Why isn't it on screen?
Yeah, I don't know, because it doesn't sell to the masses, I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm also a fan of the author. He's the son. Max Brooks is the
son of Mel Brooks. Yeah.
And our mutual friend Dorian went to Comic-Con in Calgary and saw him there. And she bought his book. She'd read my copy.
Okay.
And so she asked him to sign it. And he asked who turned her on to his books. And she said my name. The guy took a poster off the wall, signed it, and asked her to give it to me.
What? Get out of here.
Yeah. So I love Max Brooks because of that. There was part of me that had a built-in almost resentment of Max Brooks. It's like, oh, your daddy was Mel Brooks. You get to do whatever you want. So you write World War Z, and you're not making another $1 million that you don't even fucking need.
No. Yeah, he's
But
had a
then
couple
he turns-
books.
Yeah, he turns out to be a super decent guy on top of it. So I wanted this movie to be great. And it's not bad, but because it's not World War Z, I don't like it as much as maybe I should.
I initially had a very much hate on for Max Brooks because I thought he was responsible for this.
Movie.
Yeah.
Oh, but then so you watched the movie first?
Yeah. Before I did. Well, no, I read the book first.
Oh, okay.
No, but I thought he was responsible for giving his seal of approval for them doing this. But afterwards, knowing that the rights were sold and that he had absolutely nothing to do with it, I'd be like, all right, you get a pass for me this time because
There's two schools of thought when you're serving a book adapted. You either just you sign over the rights and say the book will always be the book, and the movie will always be the movie, but I'll always have my book. Or if you're precious about it, you're precious about it, and you say I'm not going to sell the rights unless I know you're going to do this book. And obviously Max Brooks just said, give me a check.
Yeah. Well, he's not to the Stephen King point, right?
Yeah.
Stephen King's to a point where he can say, I'm not giving away nothing, right?
But that's the other end of the spectrum. Stephen King will adapt his own books poorly.
Poorly, yes.
Right.
That was the key word, because he should not be involved in his making of the movies.
I will read his short stories. I will read his novels. His screenplay is pretty rocky.
Yeah.
Like, I think his adaptation of Pet Sematary, or arguably Cat's Eye, is his finest hour as a screenplay writer. But, like, his version of The
Shining is
The
awful.
Stand, it felt edgeless, But that's the trick in adaptation. So, it's a tough review for World War Z. I can't say don't watch it, but...
I'm not going to say don't watch it, but don't watch it with the thinking that it's going to be anything relative to the book.
Don't let it color your perception of the book at all. The book is great, and the movie is all right.
Yeah, look, separate entities. Just call World War Z Brad Pitt Saves the World, and you'll be fine.
But as an adaptation, a failure. As a zombie movie, it's all right.
It's all right.
On the full moon of the 7th lunar month, the gates of hell open. And the spirits of the dead are freed to roam among the living. 7th moon.
All right, Seventh Moon. Eduardo Sanchez is the co-writer and director of this movie. He brought us a little film called The Blair Witch Project in 1999.
Something tells me it did okay, if I
That
remember
did well.
correctly.
He did another movie fairly recently called Exists about Bigfoot, which I thought was actually pretty strong.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Both of those are kind of in the found footage milieu. A lot of people have problems with that forced perspective stuff.
I'm not a huge fan of the found footage, but that's another story.
A lot of people aren't. This is different, though. This movie isn't found footage. It's shot verite style. And that's sort of my largest complaint about the movie. The constant shaky camera, and because the environments are so dark, like, the presentation is difficult. Amy Smart has recently got married. Her husband is from China. They're honeymooning in China. She's going to meet his family for the first time. And even though she's totally feeling a lot of, isolation, feeling like a fish out of water culturally, she's trying to put a bright face on it. She clearly loves her husband. Mm-hmm. They go to this festival of the 7th moon, which is a real festival. The 7th lunar month, and the 14th day, the gates of hell are opened, and dead beings can come upon the earth, and people pay tributes to them. They leave out flowers or offerings. And like any other sort of religious tenets and beliefs, there are the extreme ends and there are the
not so extreme ends. Yep.
They go to this ghost celebration. They meet a nice guy. He seems really friendly. He offers to give him a ride to meet her in-laws, and then gets hopelessly lost, it seems. Tells them that he's going to get out of the car, go to this local village and get some directions, and abandons them in the middle of nowhere.
In China.
Yeah. So that's bad enough. That scenario alone, it would be a really, really troubling scenario.
That would be scary.
And then these fucking crazy naked ghost creatures start showing up and chasing them. I like the idea of using that festival. I like the fish out of water. I like the cultural stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's the presentation that hurts the movie. For me. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth. But the fact that it's constantly shaky and that it's so dark that it's disorienting, sometimes you're not actually sure about what is happening. It's that fine line with the shaky cam. Paul Greengrass can usually get away with it in the Bourne movies. It's really shaky and like shocking and jarring, but you can still sort of understand the action that's happening. And then there's the other school of thought where the guy holding the camera just shakes it a lot, and that shake will make it intense. The story should make it intense. The shake should just be there to help it, not provide.
An occasional shake is fine, but a constant shake.
And with a found footage movie, what a lot of people get frustrated is like they're constantly having the need to justify the camera, right?
It's not even shaking, it's jerking, right? Yeah.
But there's constantly that fight. Why are you filming this? Please turn off the camera. And everyone just gets super frustrated with that. This actually bothers me more than found footage because it's shot like found footage, but it's not. It's like a documentary crew is following these people, but clearly in the reality of the world, there is no documentary crew following these people.
He's trying to marry the two film genre or filming types at the same time, and it just didn't work.
I get him trying stuff. Like, I mean, found footage.
Trying stuff made him famous, right?
Found footage has been very good to him. And there are really good sequences. And I think that the story and the acting, particularly by Amy Smart, I have no beef with. But that presentation will shake a lot of people off. I'm a zombie connoisseur. I worked around that verite style, and I found my way into the movie. But I have this feeling like a lot of people, maybe even most, won't.
From my perspective, I'm the same way. I don't like the dark and the shaky camera. What you call it, the verite, right? Is that the style? I'll take your word for it. I don't know the cinematic references or anything like that. But from my point of view, I'm legally blind.
Right.
So
it's hard enough already?
It's hard enough already, but when you start shaking a camera and do it dimly lit and you only get flashes of what's going on, I don't see anything. I didn't like... A lot of the time, I was like, what the fuck happened there? I had a hard time following it.
Right.
Story-wise, like you said, I love the cultural stuff. I've been doing research into past cultures and how they view the dead and why the zombie is a thread throughout every civilization that has ever been. So I'm kind of doing some little research there. So the cultural stuff,
it's right up your alley.
It's right up my alley. So the cultural stuff, I'm really into. I just couldn't get into this one. Yeah. I had a hard time getting into this one.
I think it was Amy Smart that brought me into it. She was my saving grace. Like, I really locked in with her character. As you, well, I'm a white dude. I'm a white dude, and I can imagine feeling really kind of vulnerable in that environment. Nobody speaks my language. Everybody's being really polite to me, but
you don't have no clue.
Honest, I have no idea what these people are saying.
It's even beyond fish out of water, right? It's fish out of the atmosphere at that point.
And they're really friendly with this guy who puts them in this trap. Like, they like him. And when they get out of the car and go to this village and realize that the village is boarded up, and they can hear voices of people inside the houses, they are being ignored. And they can see animals and plants being left outside as offerings.
It's like, creepy.
The writing is on the wall. Something fucking bad is going to happen. And I really like that. And the movie does sort of pull out this thing. I mean, we're going to go to spoiler territory, but I allow that in this podcast.
Right.
The villagers end up catching them instead of the creatures.
Yeah.
And they leave them bound to this tree. And they basically wake up surrounded by these like terrible, naked, scrawny ghost creatures.
Weird,
really well realized. Like, they look creepy. And Amy Smart's husband basically begs them to take him and spare his wife. And they do. And you know what? In any other movie, that might well be the end of the movie, and it might be satisfying. He was able to save his wife.
Sacrificed
she was
himself.
Scared of the culture, but it was her husband and her lover husband that actually saw her through it. But the movie's not over then.
Nope.
She's like, fuck that. I will not just sit here and allow my husband to sacrifice himself, and according to your very rituals, he's not even dead yet. They're taking him back to turn him into one of you guys. So she, like, Sigourney Weaver's up, and she goes into this, dark catacomb to go find her man. And she becomes super. Not that she was weak before, but she becomes unbelievably strong, and again more brave than I would be in that situation. Like,
I'd be gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and I wouldn't feel good about it, but I would be out of there.
Yeah. The catacomb scene, that whole thing, I had a bit of a problem with, just because it looked like it was ripped right out of House of a Thousand Corpses, the catacomb scene, where they're underground, and I thought Rob Zombie did it better.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure he ripped it off from somebody else, because that's what he does. But I had a problem with that scene just for that reason, just because I've seen the scene before. It was done better.
What I liked is the camera work calmed down for that scene.
Yes.
Because I'm pretty sure they shot with natural light. Like, I'm pretty sure the candles what was giving
that was
the
the light, yeah.
And the creatures were somewhat dormant at this point. So when she goes into the cave, she's actually walking past a bunch of them to get to her husband. And they're just standing there, barely in the light. Really effective. And I've noticed that the camera started to calm down. I had a
amazingly, right? That's when it got better.
I took a hot wet shit on Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet on this podcast a while ago. And I said in that movie that the camera was so kinetic and shaky and all over the place. And the deeper into the movie, the more the camera actually calmed down and started to tell you the story. Just by that point, I was already pissed off. A similar trajectory happens here. Like, it's really, really jittery, but the camera starts to calm down towards the end of the movie. But I think a lot of people will have been bucked off by that point.
I think might be my favorite part of the movie had nothing to do with the undead or anything. It was the scene where they're in that little shack with that other survivor.
Right.
The other guy who got I can't remember what happened to him. They shunned him or they sent him out to be sacrificed.
I think he was actually a local.
Yeah.
Usually they bring in strangers so that the locals don't have to pay the price.
Yeah.
Right. That's why these two tourists were abandoned there.
Yeah.
Right?
So that might have been my favorite scene where they're in this shack and they think, oh, okay, we're with another survivor. Now there's power in numbers. And the guy totally fucking like, okay, fuck you guys. Yeah. You guys can die. I'm out of here. And he tries killing them, right?
Yeah. If you guys die instead of me, that's really good for me.
I'm okay with that, yeah.
I don't know you guys. We're not buds.
Well, you want to put yourself in that situation. Which person would you be? You don't really know who you're going to be in a situation like that until you're in a situation like that, right? Would you be the brave person to build up, or would I fucking put a knife in your back and send you out the door? I don't know.
Who knows what you'll become in a given situation? Yeah. Like, nobody started their day thinking that they were going to wind up here.
Yeah.
And to go back to Eduardo Sanchez and found footage, I'm a defender of found footage. I understand why people find it frustrating and that there's a lot of repetitive elements to it. But my argument has always been this. There's a lot of bad slasher movies. There's a lot of bad monster movies.
There's bad everything movies.
Yeah. But for some reason, found footage just gets dismissed. Oh, it's found footage? Fuck that movie. You know what? You know what? There's a lot of really good found footage movies. And what you're trying to get with a movie is an emotional experience. And what found footage is good for is it gives
visceral
low-budget filmmakers the chance to connect in a very emotional way with their audience. And if you do it well, you can get that next project and you can get your film career going.
Exactly.
So I can't hate found footage.
Oh, that's okay.
I won't hate found footage.
I wouldn't say I hate found footage. I have an aversion to found footage.
Right.
Probably just due to the fact of the visuals, and I have a hard time following the visuals just because it's the nature of it.
Yeah.
Cloverdale, I enjoy.
Yeah.
Oh, Cloverfield, thank you.
Yeah.
I enjoy Cloverfield, so I'm not averse to watching a found footage movie. I just don't find them as enjoyable.
And I get that. And Rec might have the same problem for you, but I would point you towards the Rec franchise. Like,
Rec, another one,
Because people say they're sick of zombies and they're sick of found footage. And I say, watch the Rec movies and then tell me that you're sick of zombies and tell me that you're sick of found footage.
You'll change your mind.
Right? Yeah. There are good ones out there. Yeah, there's bad ones out there. I'm not going to sit here and say that every found footage movie is great, but I get frustrated when people just dismiss it. And Eduardo Sanchez, because Blair Witch was so good to him, I think has been trying to sort of nurse the genre a little bit. This wasn't quite found footage, and I think that, like I said, the aesthetic breaks the movie a little bit. But take a look at Exists if you feel like giving a found footage movie a try. And have an honest shake at Blair Witch. I mean, I know that it's a love or hate experience for most people, Blair Witch Project, but as an experiential piece of horror, I really think it's strong.
It was genre busting.
Yeah.
It definitely was.
And like, love it or hate it, you can't argue its influence.
Oh, definitely. I would never argue that. I wouldn't say I love it, but I would. I'm not a love-hate for Blair Witch in this case.
Right.
Anyway, I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty creepy at times, and I'm just not a huge fan of the found footage stuff.
Yeah.
That's all.
And Eduardo Sanchez is a talent I think just worth keeping an eye on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can tell that he has a great imagination.
He can clearly make a movie.
Yeah, he made up the legend of the Blair Witch Project with his partner, and that tells me he's got a good imagination. I think the screenplay to Seventh Moon is fairly strong. Again, it's the execution that hurts it, and I'm really good with Exists. So.
It's got a solid foundation there.
Yeah.
I just think it just fell short.
I think if you're a zombie fan, if you like zombie movies, it's worth a look.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a casual zombie fan, this might be one of the ones that you can
You might want to pass.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I would say so.
So yeah, according to the back of the DVD box of The Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue, it's also known as Let Sleeping Corpses Lie, which is a title that I have seen, and Don't Open the Window. What's really interesting about this 1974 Italian production is how much it is sort of that Giallo set. Mm-hmm. I've said on the podcast before, some people don't like found footage. I have a real hard time with Giallo stuff. Mario Bava, Dario Argento, people really, really embrace their movies. And I think for every good movie that those guys made, they made 5 shitty ones. Right? And there's something about the aesthetic of these movies. The colors are really bright, and the actors are usually filmed in Italian or their native language, and then it's dubbed over in English. And I would honestly always rather just read subtitles, but there's a hill to get over.
Yeah.
There's a hill to get over right away from the very start of the movie. And if you can't get over that hill, then you're not going to like the movie. On top of that, you've got this very, very 70s mentality, hippies, the police inspector who is kind of quote a heroic figure, but is so disgusted by these hippie bikers and their faggot clothes, I believe as he says it.
Yeah, I think so. You and your faggoty clothes.
Yeah, and it's like it seems so far apart from where we are now that it's actually hard to connect to some of these characters. Like,
it's interesting. I'm gonna go on the flip side of that, as far as the dubbing over the voices, because of my eyesight.
Right.
I hate subtitles.
Right.
Loathe them. Right.
Fair
so
enough.
I'm well okay with the dubbing over of the mouths, because typically I can't see the mouths move anyway.
Right.
So occasionally you'll be able to tell, like, that doesn't match really well. But for the most part, I'm okay with the dubbing. I watch a lot of the Italian splatter fests from 70s and 80s, and it's all dubbed over, and I have no problems with that.
And I don't mean to dismiss the entire genre. It's just one of those things that I've never connected with as much as some of the other people. And because of the climate of the 70s, we're at the end of the Vietnam War.
Yep.
So, and there's some environmental stuff in here, which is actually kind of interesting. It's an environmental crisis, which has started this zombie epidemic.
Social commentary once again.
And in 74, this is ahead of the game, right? So there's a bunch of interesting stuff about the movie. Ray Lovelock is kind of like a really charming throwback kind of character. Like, this guy only could exist in 1974.
Yeah.
But in 1974, he is the man.
He is the man. Like, put him in nowadays, and I don't even know what he would be these days. He wouldn't fish. You talked about fish out of water and Seventh Moon. He would be a fish out of water.
Exactly.
He would just not fit.
But in this world, in 1974, he is the coolest motherfucker in the world. He's got a sexy leather jacket. He's got a huge 70s beard, wavy big hair.
Yeah.
And He stops at a gas station. This girl dings up his motorbike, and he befriends her, although they're kind of catty with each other.
He just usurps her car.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm fucking driving. He's like, oh, okay.
And slowly he and she get mixed up in this resurrection of zombies. And because, well, the nature of the business, it doesn't really play out well for anybody. I mean, there's not a lot new about the movie from this perspective in 2017, but I will argue in 1974, I give them points for trying shit. It's all, for me, the aesthetic. If you can put up with watching an Italian giallo movie from 1974 that's so 70s that it actually hurts a little bit, then you might have some fun with this movie.
I definitely had some fun with this.
It's a little bit of an uphill battle, but I think you can engage with it. But it's not for everyone.
No, this one is definitely not for everyone. You really need to be into your zombie movies to really enjoy this one. The first half of the movie, where they're going through the fields and the colors and stuff like that, and they go to her house, and there's the drug heroin addicted sister or whatever, and her husband, and all that stuff I thought was great. Actually, to be honest, the part where it kind of fell flat for me was the last third of the movie, when there's actually zombies running about. You lose the colors, everything becomes kind of grayscale, and it doesn't feel like alive anymore.
There's a sort of uncertainty about the movie, even the vibe of the movie. You're not even sure if it's winking at you. It's not quite showing you its hand. But once it gets to later in the movie, it's like, well, yes, we are a zombie movie, and this is how zombie movies end, so we're going to
This is how we're going to end it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess you could argue that it gets more conventional the deeper into the movie you get.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily think in a bad thing. It's a fine balance. I sound hypocritical. I need you to mix it up a bit. But, but if you move too far to one side, then you start to lose me.
Well, that's just it. It just felt like there was a break right in the middle of the movie, like halfway, 2/3 in. There was this colorful part in the building the story, and all of a sudden there was this break, and then it just became a separate movie altogether.
Yeah.
And you're looking at this guy in his underwear crawling through a hospital. Where'd that come from?
And I think the impact, spoiler, of having our super cool 70s dude turn into a zombie and see all of the life taken out of him, it's less impactful by how drawn out it is. We know where this is going.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, you're like he's fucked.
Yeah. And just how slowly he walks in. And again, that fucking dick police officer.
I love that guy.
But becoming sort of a de facto hero, even though almost everything that comes out of his mouth is
just spews garbage. Yeah.
Terrible.
No, I love that guy. He was probably my favorite character in that movie. Yeah.
Charming, funny, but intentional? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. I guess if we were entertained by it, who gives a shit?
Yeah, 43 years later, nobody cares.
And the science fiction aspect of it, again, is interesting. They're putting radio waves into the earth to stop the insects.
Yes, the insects, yeah.
To stop the insects from wanting to eat the grass or whatever. So that, the farming, the agriculture will be all for the better. And they're talking about how right now it's just in a small area, but we're going to maximize this. We're gonna put this everywhere. So you doom,
and everyone's like, no, and they try to stop it. And
like Romero's Night of the Living Dead never even attempted to explain. There was some news report about a comet that had passed. That maybe that's
radiation
the reason why,
from
but
a comet.
It's all just conjecture. They don't know. And most zombie movies just took that and ran with it. Zombies are here. Let's
just deal with it, because that's the reality of the situation.
Give it credit, they tried to make an explanation, and it was a fairly salient one, at least in the world of zombies.
In 1974.
Science did something science should not have done,
Fucking
and the
science.
dead have risen, and that's fine. It's as credible an answer as you can get. That's the main reason they don't answer it in most zombie movies, is because what answer would we accept? Oh, it's brain bugs.
Sure.
Oh, it's radiation.
Sure.
Oh, there was no more room in hell. Oh, whatever.
The point is, it doesn't matter.
You have to survive. It has to be an experiential thing.
Because at that point, when you're trying to survive, it doesn't matter how it started. You're just trying to make sure you don't get eaten.
It's the uncertainty of the film that I kind of find charming. That scene for scene, You honestly have
had no idea what was going to happen. Yeah,
and it's fairly quick. It's like 96 minutes. It doesn't overstay its welcome.
Yeah.
So I think that like take it as it is. It's a retro sort of Italian zombie feast, and it's not as spattery and exploitive as a lot of them are. A lot of them get really obsessed with the nudity and really like,
especially the Italians.
Yeah, or like just the meat, the blood, and the teeth, and the
intestines getting yanked.
They live for that. And you know, I love Day of the Dead, and that's full of that shit. But like, that's not what the movie is about for me. I guess is the dividing line.
Yeah.
And with a lot of these Italian ones, that's what they're about. They're about showing some titties and about showing some guts. Slow motion eye punctures and shit like that. It just doesn't do anything for me. It's like they cut to the naked lady getting out of the bath and she hears a sound. And I know they're going to draw this out for 10 minutes. I'm going to see her tits and she's going to die awful. And I just wish I could fast forward to the point where the scene was done.
They're going to rip open her stomach with their hands and pull out her intestines while she's wailing away, and then...
This is not that.
Nope.
I mean, not that it doesn't have, you know, a little bit of sex and a little bit of violence, but it appropriate to the story. And the story is trying to be bigger than that. I appreciate the ambition of the film while recognizing that it's for zombie aficionados.
Definitely. It's not for your run-of-the-mill zombie moviegoer. If you just came into the zombie genre in the last 5-10 years, you'd probably give it a pass.
I'd like to believe, Rick, that somebody like would see that when this podcast pops up on the feed and they see Living Death Manchester Ward, sweet.
I'm gonna watch that. That sounds great.
I am not naive. I guarantee you, like 99% of the people who are listening to this have never fucking heard of this movie.
You're like, huh?
What? Is it worth, you know, spending a lot of money on? No. Like, you get it cheap, or if you find it on a streaming service and you feel like watching a 70s zombie movie.
Hey, give her a go. Something to late at night. You're laying on the sofa, throw her on, and if you fall asleep, you do, and if you don't, you don't.
It also raises the question: 74, so it's like 40 years old.
43 years old.
Like movies. Like I watch all sorts of movies. I just ordered M. It's Fritz Lang movie. Like
yes, the serial killer.
One of the older movies in my collection. So I have no problem with classic cinema, but I do think that it is about the 40-45 year mark where the difference in the zeitgeist and the culture and everything becomes so dramatic that unless you were alive at the time that movie was made,
you don't get it.
It's really hard to accept, to get. Like, when you watch a movie from the 30s and 40s where most of the cast were pulled from the stage and they're all performing for the end of the back of the room because they're projecting their voices because that's what actors do, right? It seems painful and artificial, but that's how it was done. And you can watch movies that were made in that time that are very effective, but you have to sort of climatize to it. And that is something that, movies that were made when I was born now are like
maybe not
filmed equivalent of golden oldies.
Yeah.
You know, they mean something to people who were there, and less and less to people.
It's hard for me to grasp that I'm in the golden oldies section now, right?
Me too. Like, I don't want to hear Smells Like Teen Spirit playing in an elevator, but I fucking will. That will happen.
Yeah, exactly. I have an instrumental version, like toned down elevator music. Oh man, that's sad.
And so too with our movies. But there are some movies that rise above that. This is not.
That is not one of them, no.
Grayson, Marky, and Pippa. 3 little piggies. But who's going to be squealing all the way home tonight? Someone's coming out!
Hang on a minute, my sound has gone down again.
Where's Sophie? Anybody know where Sophie is? Hello?
Oh my god, is that actually what Channel 4 is putting out?
Yeah, why?
Oh.
Oh, get fucked.
I've been excited to talk about this one for a while, Rick.
All right.
Dead Set is actually was a mini-series aired on the BBC in 2008 over Halloween week. Monday night they played an hour. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday they played a half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
If you add it all up, it's about a 2 hour and 15-minute zombie movie.
Yeah, give or take, yeah.
Charlie Booker is the guy who put this one together. He has since become very famous for his contribution to the Black Mirror series, which I am a big fan of. It's
As
like
am I.
British Twilight Zone,
Yeah,
but
give it
with
a
little
watch.
bit more teeth.
Yeah.
In the same way that British seems to have a little bit more edge to their humor and to the
They have a little more edge to the Twilight Zone.
Yeah. So obviously I hadn't seen Black Mirror when this one came out, but I mean, I'm always on the hunt for something relatively obscure. So it was never really released on this side of the ocean. I had to find a region-free copy and get it to me, and I really, really wanted it to live up to the hype. Because it had a pretty hard thing to work against. As much as I love zombies, that's how much I hate reality TV.
Oh, I'm 100% in agreement with you.
I
fucking hate it.
Hate reality TV. And this is about a zombie epidemic that happens in London during the taping of Big Brother.
Big Brother, yeah.
But all of the people in the Big Brother house that are being filmed and broadcast live have no idea
what's going on.
That the zombie apocalypse is taking place and that London's been emptied out and shit has hit the fan to a terrible degree. And not funny, by the way. This is much closer to 28 Days Later than it is to Shaun of the Dead.
Mm-hmm.
It is an aggressive and quite frightening zombie movie, and I can't endorse it enough. And the best compliment I can give it is I know nothing about Big Brother, like I don't care about it, and I can't bring myself to start caring about it. But by the end of the series, I understood the idea of the show, that they were basically getting voted off the island in the show.
Right,
and,
the island being the house.
The island being the house, and that it was being broadcast. Even when the show wasn't being broadcast, you could go online and
look at it live to see what they're doing.
So all of their behavior is heightened because, as far as they know, they're being watched by a television audience, but they're not being watched by a television audience. There's great humor in the movie as well, but never in a way to kill the stakes.
No, it was not a zombie.
No.
So don't go in there looking for big laughs. There's a few there, but that's not what the movie's about.
The first hour of the movie is set up, and the next hour and 15 minutes is some of the best zombie chaos that I've seen. And it was made for the small screen, and not a lot of people on this side of the ocean has seen it.
I had never seen it until I watched it, and I'm very glad I did.
So you're on the same page.
I am on the same page, yeah. Anytime I can watch some vapid, shallow fucking reality, contestants get fucking chewed on, I'm in.
Yeah.
But it was also really well made, well shot, well acted, great story. The producer, they lots of good homages in this one to some of the Romero stuff.
Yeah.
The horrible producer who would sell you out at drop of a dime.
Andy Nyman plays this guy Patrick.
Oh,
holy shit!
What a terrible man! It was awesome, and just he gets chewed on, his guts get ripped out. I can't remember what he chanted, but it was along the refrain of the Day of the Dead, the Colonel.
Yeah.
Choke on him! Choke on it! As he's getting ripped apart. And then he gets his head ripped off, which was awesome scene.
For me, the first hour is set up, as I said, but at the end of that first hour, a zombie actually makes it into the house. And if we have a main character, it's this producer chick, takes out this zombie with a fire extinguisher.
Yes.
And it is unreal. Like, the spatter, the level of violence. And again, this was broadcast prime time, ABC. I mean, I have such respect.
It's crazy, right? Like Walking Dead owes them a favor, owes them a debt of gratitude, because I think they broke the
I was
barrier.
about to say that The Walking Dead's never been worse than that, but maybe they have. But still, this was a one shot, right? And they wanted to leave an impression.
It was an amazing shot. The look on the house goers' faces when they see her just fucking go apeshit on the zombie with a fire extinguisher, they looked absolutely horrified.
Yeah, and all doubt is extinguished.
Yeah, exactly.
Extinguished with the extinguisher.
Oh, you don't think it's real?
Yeah.
Take a look at this.
Yeah. This is not a special effect. I just killed the fuck out of this guy, right? And everybody's just sitting there
like,
holy shit.
My God.
the two people I want to... You mentioned the first one, Patrick, the Andy Nyman character. But this other girl, Pippa, who spends a good portion of the movie locked in a separate sort of changing area. She's Scottish. She's got this really charming accent. And she represents all that is empty and vacuous about like a reality TV star. But here's the thing: I end up really liking Pippa.
I wouldn't say she redeemed herself per se, but
she still kind of died of stupidity.
Yeah. Which was a fitting end for her, because man,
there's something weirdly endearing about like Patrick telling you, "We've got to open up this door, and I'm going to kill this zombie." And she's like, "I don't like it.
I don't like it. I don't want to do it."
Well, no, of course you don't like it, but it needs to get done.
And when he takes a shit in the room after getting blasted drunk, like, oh no.
That's how he convinces her to fight. He says,
like, "You don't want to stay in here, this thing.
Either we fight or we take turns pissing and shitting in this bin until we starve to death." And that's where the comedy comes out. It comes out of the situation. And they're not going, eh.
Yeah.
And the fact that Patrick made a zinger didn't endear him to me at all. I fucking hate him. He's such an asshole.
He was such a bad person.
But again, the zombie movies, maybe it's a cliche, you need that Cooper character, right? And you need characters that you like. This guy with the unfortunate name of Space. Traveling the English countryside, he befriends this nice lady, and she ends up dying. And even though we only know her for like one of the 5 episodes, kind of sucks that she dies.
Right? Yeah, it does. And I like the little, I wouldn't call it a side plot, but little side stories going on. He's trying to get to his girlfriend.
Yeah.
His girlfriend is cheating on him with some other guy inside the movie studio. He's unbeknownst to her, so he's risking his life to get to her.
Yeah.
When you're like, she's cheating on you, dude. But you don't even hate her for cheating on him.
And it's the classic horror journey too. He travels all this way to be with her, and basically as soon as he gets there, he's fucked.
Done.
And no punches pulled anywhere in this movie. Like, we're spoiler-friendly thing, but like we keep on seeing these exterior shots of some television screens that are still on, that are still broadcasting the Big Brother house. And one of the last shots we have is the zombie of one of our main characters staring at the camera, and a bunch of other zombies outside staring at her on the TV. Like, and there's something really, really strong about it.
Well, there's the social commentary again, right?
Absolutely, and it's there if you want it.
If you want
It's not in your face. It's not saying you're stupid and a zombie if you watch reality television.
No, it's not saying that, but
it's not saying that either, right? You can pull what you want from it. And I can't think of a weak performance. There was some cliche moments, but they were so well executed.
Zombie movie tropes, so to speak. But
people doing stupid things, like someone's bit, and they stay with them, even though like
they know.
Yeah. The most recent Alien movie, we're sort of jumping the shark a little bit here, has a scene where somebody's being about to erupt with an alien, and his crewmate, not knowing what to do, just hugs him. But
what are you doing?
She doesn't know she's in an alien movie. My issue with Dead Set is by that point
they knew they were in a
zombie movie, and he still stayed with that chick until she turned and bit him, right? But while I was watching the movie, I was just sorry for the character. It was like, that sucks, dude. And I liked everybody, even though they were, like I said, these vacuous reality TV people. And I liked that this was a zombie movie that was being broadcast live for other zombies to watch. Like, there's layers to this thing.
Yeah, it's an onion. You can just peel back. You could watch this 3 times and take something different out of it every single time.
So what I would say, for anyone listening, if you can get your hands on the Dead Set, it is... what do they call this version of it? It's the 1-disc version of the collection. You can get it where it's on 2 discs or 1. The 1-disc version is region free, although you said it wouldn't play on your tape.
What I had to do is it's actually on YouTube.
Is it?
The series, if you want, you can find it on YouTube.
Well, that's even easier.
It's a little hard to hunt around, and it's in episodes, so it's episodic. So
Right.
it's on a one foul shoot. So I had a hard time trying to figure it out, just because I thought I wasn't aware of Dead Set. I didn't know what it was. So it took me, I don't know, a couple hours before I realized it's a mini series. Stupid. They're in episodes. So,
but that's the only problematic thing, and it's the one thing that I'll take against the movie, because it's just how it was aired, and it's how it was designed to air, and that's not the problem. We get that first hour, which gets you really into the movie, and after that first hour, every 20 minutes, we get a little recap of what has happened.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that they structured the DVD that way, because it really it pulls you out of it just for a few seconds. Yeah, I just watched those scenes. Like, I'm gonna watch the whole thing at once, right? I don't need this 20-minute recap or recap
whatever it is.
minutes. Yeah, and that's the thing. If you want to have an actual physical copy of it, that's the way you get it here.
Okay.
And maybe YouTube has cut those out. I don't know, but my real point is that it's so worth finding. It's not easy to get on this side of the ocean.
It's worth hunting her for.
If you like zombie movies, this is such a good zombie movie. The zombies are not Romero. They're much closer to the 28 Days Later aggressive runny zombies.
Yeah, I would say, yeah.
But they're scary. No weak links in the cast. You have your Cooper character. You have your, heroic characters. You have, you know how things are going to play out. I mean, I guess you could argue that there's not a lot of surprises to be found. I guess the surprise is that it was executed so well. Yeah. And it just made me wish that they would do this kind of Halloween stuff on this side of the ocean.
We'd fuck it up.
We would. Another aside, and this is true of British television and American and Canadian television, but explain this to me, Rick.
All right.
we can see someone's head be caved in with a fire extinguisher or a baseball bat. But if and in BBC they were letting them swear quite well.
Oh yeah.
Pippa gets called a cunt more than a few times. But if we were to see a nipple,
all hell would break loose.
Society would shut down.
I don't fucking get it, man.
It's insane.
I blame the church.
Yeah, I blame society. And I mean, not that this movie particularly needed a lot of titty, but I mean, it's incredibly violent. It's incredibly vulgar, but nope. If there was an ass in this movie, if we saw some boobie,
nope, it'd be over.
That would be taking it somehow too far, and I will never understand it.
It's not for us to understand why.
Just deal.
It's up to us to do or die.
Please, watch Dead Set.
Yeah. Could be worse. Well, how do you figure that? Well, we got to live a lot longer than most of our friends. And think of all those hussies we've had the pleasure of being with.
Who you've been with?
What are you talking about? You've been with heaps of hot chicks. I mean, granted, most of them had faces like drop pies, but they've been okay. Let's go for a run at the supermarket. Stretch legs.
What, you want to run there?
Actually, the exercise could do you good.
Storage room, jackpot! Ah! My girlfriend!
Hey, baby, what's up? Hey! My name's Morgan!
Hey!
I know a cure. It's called Today!
No, an actual cure. One that's going to save them, turn them back.
Back into humans?
It's possible.
You want us to take you to the hospital with us, possibly hundreds. Get one of them to kindly donate a sample of their blood. We'll all jump in a plane, fly to Stewart Island, where your scientist buddy's going to cook up a cure, and everything will be back to normal.
I mean, we'll be saving the world, right?
Power's out.
So last, and maybe least, we'll discuss.
We'll see.
We're going to talk about Last of the Living. It's a Kiwi zombie comedy, maybe.
Yeah,
I think that's what they were starting.
I think it doesn't take itself too seriously.
Yeah.
So
I have a soft spot for New Zealand, generally speaking, but not just Peter Jackson and Lord of the Rings. Although I like Wed and I like all of that, I just think they've had good luck with their zombie properties. If you have a chance to see a movie called Black Sheep about zombie sheep, it's hilarious. Yep. I really enjoyed that movie. Of course, Dead Alive. Dorian and I recently talked about a movie called Housebound that was made there.
I don't know.
Of course, What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh, hilarious!
Lovely.
We just watched it last night.
Nice.
Again. Yeah.
So I like New Zealand, and they've got this sort of weird, crazy quality to them. You can sort of tell that they're New Zealand pictures because they have this little edge.
I just wanted to interject that he's making another one. It's about werewolves.
Oh yeah, I heard this.
Okay, just making sure you did.
And he directed Thor
Ragnarok. Taiko, whatever his last name is. Yeah.
Very, very, very Kiwi name.
Yeah.
So this is a very low budget version, you know, and I like the weird strangeness that New Zealand films have. It sort of reminds me of what I like about low budget independent Canadian horror movies, where it's just a little bit weirder or a little bit darker than you think maybe it should be.
Just a little off.
Just slightly off. And I named a lot of great movies there, and to include Last of the Living in that company is not a fair First off, what I'm going to say, I love the zombie genre, and I'm utterly sympathetic to somebody who's working on a micro budget. And this is clearly the case here. They did not have very much money. This was clearly everybody's first film. So I'm going to hold this movie's hand a little bit. Okay. I take less issue with the production problems and with the fact that they didn't have maybe the money for the ambition of the project than I do with the tone. For me, it's because it starts off as a bunch of schlubs, almost like a Big Lebowski kind
like a
of
frat
comedy.
type of thing.
They're couch potatoes. They're like, yeah, blasé, whatever. And they have a few kind of charming, pithy zingers. But again, not ha 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 ha. Kind of like nod and smile type of humor. It's not uproarious. It's charming.
It's like, haha, you're ragging on them. That's funny.
But juxtaposed against the stakes of a zombie apocalypse, and within the story they meet a woman who believes that she might be able to cure the zombie apocalypse, the stakes never feel real at all.
No.
They're more into like going to the music store and getting more
the latest album that came out before the zombie apocalypse hit.
And
right?
there's things like, you know, there doesn't seem to be any damage outside of the buildings. The electricity is still on. Everything's very, very cash. It's very, very cash. And I think this was just all production issues, right? They would have loved to shown us a post-apocalyptic New Zealand.
Oh, I'm sure they would have.
They didn't have the money. They would have loved to have an A-list cast.
They got a plane.
Yeah. No, and that was probably
right?
the big get of the
probably,
movie.
Yeah. That was
probably
the big get.
Because they spent a lot of time filming that plane.
Way too much time filming that plane.
So, is it a great movie? No. I've seen a lot worse movies. But, I mean, it's in the company of a lot of much more interesting works. And what I see in this movie is potential. And I just looked him up on the IMDb. This was made in 2008, and he hasn't really done anything of significance since. So it was a good swing. I think I've seen a lot worse, you know, of these independent things. It's distributed by Echo Bridge, which is where independent movies kind of go to die. You'll see their packages in like Walmart bins where they're like 10 horror movies for $5, right?
Yeah.
Last of the Living would be in that, but it would probably be the best movie in that set of movies.
Bundle, yeah.
But it's again fairly faint praise, so I'm up and down on Last of the Living. I can't hate it, but I can't recommend it.
All right, well, I think I enjoyed it more than you.
Oh, okay.
But for me, there's three kind of types of zombie movies for me.
Right.
There's the pre-apocalyptic, when
right.
things just start hitting the fan.
Right.
There's, holy shit, the shit's hitting the fan, everyone's being eaten. And then there's the post.
Right.
And for me, the post is usually the most interesting part to me. Because one thing I like about horrors, and in particular Stephen King stuff, is small groups together, how they deal with the unbelievable situations, which is kind of like what this is, right? Whatever, I don't remember what city where they're in, but whatever city they're in, it's empty. There's these three guys bouncing from house to house, and it makes you think, what if I survived the zombie apocalypse? What would I be doing?
Yeah.
Right? So for me, that I found that very interesting. I really like the post-zombie stuff. For the Romero stuff, Day of the Dead usually gets shit on the most.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorites.
Right.
Because I love they were in the bunker and small group, Dr. Frankenstein working on some shit.
Yeah.
And is it their best movie ever made? No, but it might be one of the...
It's a great zombie movie.
Yeah, exactly. So that's probably what I liked about Last of the Living.
Right.
Just because I like that part of the zombie time frame.
Yeah.
The after effects. It was full of plot holes, and some of it made no sense, but...
Well, I'll be honest, like, I rewatched it last night. I'd seen it before, but my memory... and, I'd seen it before preparing for this podcast. I ended up watching it twice, because I didn't retain it.
Right. Selective memory loss, perhaps.
Well, I just wanted to be able to talk cogently about it here. And watching it again, especially so close together, I see them, I see what you're trying to do, and I see how that could work. but it's not there. These moments aren't earned.
They just didn't have it.
This guy is all obsessed with music, as we talked about, and he keeps on trying to give his demo tape to people. Like, he's still going to have a career as a musician. And when he gets bit and he sacrifices himself so that they can buy them time so they can escape, they're trying to make this big moment of it, and he hands her the tape and they give him a hug, and it's just like...
flat.
You're not feeling it. I get how this, when you read it on the page or when you had it in your head...
Sounds great.
This is going to be this really epic moment.
And people are going to be crying. Yeah. It's so sad. And you're like, all right. Well.
Just doesn't quite land. It's like, oh, he's bit. All right. Right, next.
Unlike the plane.
Yeah.
It just doesn't quite land. Somehow they managed to land the plane. Anyway.
One of the only surprises I had in the movie, though, I will give to what happened on the plane. They managed this girl who's the most badass of them all.
Definitely.
Which is becoming increasingly more common in movies, and especially horror movies. The guys are all stupid, and there's one girl who has her poop in a group. Right? That's it.
Who's just seen her father die, by the way.
Yeah. They get in the plane, it's been harrowing, they've lost their buddy, they lay down and they sleep, they're going to fly out to this island, and this dude wakes up, the guy who's unfortunately named Ash, which is hard not to connect to the Evil Dead.
I know, right?
And he also looks like a failed clone of Matt Stone of Trent.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Like
a
Kiwi version of Matt
Stone.
Stone.
That's where I recognize him from. Like, I think I've seen this guy as somebody else, but I hadn't.
But it's interesting because he spends the whole movie whining. He's like the bitch.
He's the bitch of the group, yeah.
And he lives. He's the guy who survives. Well, he goes to a very uncertain future.
Yeah.
But he wakes up on the plane and he goes to talk to the girl who's flying the plane, and she's a zombie.
Mm-hmm. She was bitten earlier. She's like, I can do this. I got enough time to fly us
I'll
over
get
there.
us there.
And they're like, okay, I'm gonna go to sleep then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't buy They didn't know she was bit. I didn't get the impression.
I got the impression that they knew
because they figured it'd be because the way he walks up to her, he's just talking to her like he doesn't expect her to have changed.
Which, yeah, I know, but that's why I had the problem with it, because I'm pretty sure they knew before going on the plane that she was bit, and she's like, "No, I can do this because I'm the only one who can fly. We need to get this cure over to."
It didn't completely read, but I was not expecting her to have zombified.
Oh, okay, I totally expected it.
They made a point of her being this heroic figure. I figured she was going to be the hero of the movie. She was going to drag these guys kicking and screaming into adulthood or whatever.
Right.
But then the movie comes to its conclusion. Everybody is dead except for this one guy, Ash, in this tiny rowboat. And it took them several hours by plane to get to this island. So he's basically rowing into the middle of the ocean.
Of where? Yeah, exactly. Where are you rowing to?
But at the beginning of the movie, like I said, we had this couch potato vibe, and all these guys who were more interested in collecting their music and hoarding and enjoying to some respect. And then to get to this place at the end of the movie where
they're trying to save the world. And
they're trying to save the world, and they fail, and they go to this incredibly dark ending. They
should have just stayed put. They were having a great time. Right?
Yeah.
They go around with their baseball bats, go shopping at the grocery store, and kill any zombies that came around. Of course, the bitch of the show, Ash, had to get all suited up and stuff, which made him a bit of a weenie.
Yeah.
But, they should have just stayed put. Fuck the world.
Other things is we are in the age of The Walking Dead, so having a bunch of your friends look pale and stagger around as zombies just doesn't quite do it.
No.
You know, you can swing a bat and add a sound effect and the zombie can fall down, but in this day and age, we're expecting to see the red. That's what we expect out of a zombie movie.
Especially in a movie like this, where there's really not that many zombies in the movie. Probably, once again, production thing. It costs a lot of money.
But when you have them, you got to pay.
You better pay off with some splatter. Yeah.
And they don't. But they don't suck either.
No.
It's that's the really frustrating thing. It's one of those really frustrating movies. Like, some movies are just bad and they piss me off. And this one makes me frustrated because it's close to being good. Like, you can see the good movie there. You can see how the script is pretty salient. They're new actors, and they didn't have the time or money to do a lot of takes, so some scenes are stronger than others. Mm-hmm. The humor is charming, but it's sort of like funny. That sort of shrugging, whimsical British New Zealand type of humor.
Yeah.
It's not ha 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 ha. It won't make you laugh out loud the way Zombieland or Shaun of the Dead will.
They didn't take themselves too seriously, but they took themselves a little too seriously.
They started off kind of whimsical, and they ended hella dark.
Yeah.
And they didn't earn it. Right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't like this slow twist, like the movie went from here to there and we didn't see it coming. But
no, you saw everything coming.
You saw every step painstakingly mapped out. But
I give them a tip of the cap for the effort, though.
I want to like the movie. I like New Zealand filmmakers. I like that they're micro budget. I like that they tried to make a zombie movie, and I like that it's almost there. But it's tough to recommend.
The acting wasn't terrible.
No.
Like, it wasn't great, but
and it was
terrible.
clearly who was available. Like one of the co-screenwriters plays Ash. Like, he's one of the main characters, and he co-wrote the script. And I can relate to wearing multiple hats and how truly difficult it is to make a micro-budget movie. Like, my heart goes out to them. I wish I could be saying that this is the one that pulled it out, but what I see here is potential. It's not a Blair Witch where they used their micro budget and made it into something that was worth $1 million. To me, it was like they made a micro budget film that was good for a micro budget film, and I would love to see what they could do.
It was great for a film class.
Yeah,
right.
It does feel like a student film. That's actually probably a fair answer. Like,
that was my initial thought.
Yeah,
was a couple of university kids making a student film,
and so on that level,
hey,
it's fine. But if you're going to compare it to these other movies that we've been watching, it's not going to rank high. Not for me. I guess we'll find out.
We'll find out.
Is there anything else you want to say about The Last of the Living?
I probably wouldn't recommend it, but for me, it was okay for me. So,
all right. Rick, thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me, Larry.
I know. Like, for a month, I was just leading you on.
Oh,
we got to record this podcast.
Well, it took me like 6 months to watch the movies to get back to you. Like, oh, sorry, I still have your fucking movies.
But I felt like every week for like 4 weeks in a row, I was like, we got to record this podcast, dude. And then I wouldn't get back to you. or like, as soon as my schedule opens up, I'll let you know. And then my schedule would continue not to open up. So I really appreciate you doing this, and I really appreciate you doing zombies with me. Because
I love zombies.
You're a zombie guy. I'm a zombie guy. We get into it. Someone who's resistant to it, this would have been an uphill battle. So I am very interested to hear, what was your least favorite of these 6 zombie pictures?
All right, this is a controversial one.
All right.
My least favorite, World War Z.
Nice. Wow.
All right, just for the sake of the fact that it was not the movie I wanted.
Right.
It was, the movie itself was production value good, acting good, Brad Pitt saves the roles, la-di-da-di-da. It's not what I wanted the movie to be, so it gets ranked last.
Okay.
Yourself?
We want to pass it back and forth?
Are we going to do that, or?
I can do that. Typically, I like my guests.
Okay. Yeah,
okay. I do it all.
Sure. No
the
problem.
idea is if we line up, we get a prize, but
I don't think we're going to line up. No.
So we can do it however you want.
All right. Number 5 for me, Seventh Moon.
Okay.
Good idea, probably a good storyline. I just had a hard time watching it just because of the style.
Yeah,
and
it's a dark, shaky movie.
Yeah,
I get it.
And I just couldn't get into it. And a lot of the stuff that I saw in the movie, I saw done better somewhere else. So that's the only reason it's ranked number 5 for me.
Fair enough.
Number 4, Last of the Living, the one we just touched on. I thought it was okay for like a student film, right?
For what it is.
It is okay for what it is, exactly. So that's number 4 for me. I don't really have much else to say about Last of the Living. Number 3, Living Dead at Manchester Morgue.
Wow.
Really enjoyed the first half, 2/3 of the movie. Fell away at the end.
Petered out. Yeah.
Petered out at the end. It wasn't what I wanted it to be. I thought it was going to be a little different, but it ended up being the same with probably a much less gore, which I was okay with, but I would have been okay with a little more gore in that one. But I thought the first 2/3 of the movie was wonderfully shot. Loved the cop character.
Yeah.
Yeah. Number 2, Pontypool.
Yay!
Great take on the social commentary of the zombies, words making you into mindless zombies, which is terribly appropriate nowadays.
Yeah, ahead of its time.
Way ahead of its time. And number 1, Dead Set.
Nice.
How can you not like vapid, fucking shallow characters getting eaten?
Reality TV stars versus zombies.
Exactly. Zombies win. Love it.
It was like made to please me.
The mindless zombies beat the mindless zombies. So that's my list.
It's a solid list. I mean, I'm not going to fight you on it necessarily. We have pretty different lists, though. We have pretty different lists. We're not going 0 for 6. We're not going 6 for 6. No prizes this time, but if you come back again one of these days, you might win.
We have very similar tastes, so eventually it might happen.
So, uncharitably, I guess, I put Last of the Living in last place.
Oh, that's hard, man.
Here's the thing, like I said during the review, it's their first time making a movie, and they don't have any money. So it would be kind of weird that if it ranked super high on the list. And
like 4?
Placing it last place isn't even me saying that it's terrible. It's just not quite up to par what I would call like a real mainstream movie release. It's still in the area of student film, micro-budget film. And if you can watch a student film or a micro-budget film, this is a decent one to watch. But it wants to be bigger than it is, and it's wonky in tone. And I want to like it. Like I said when we started that review, I just spent all this time saying how much I'm cheering for this movie.
Yeah.
So there we go. All the way in 5th place, I put The Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue, not Morgue.
Morgue. Hey, that's pretty good.
That also works, I guess. I think that the audience for this movie is pretty small, and with each decade that goes by,
it gets smaller
it's going to get smaller and smaller. But for people who will like it, they'll probably like it a lot.
Yeah.
And if you were watching movies around that time, I wasn't born in '74 yet. I was about to be introduced to the world, but it's all right. It's an interesting throwback, but we're in a zombie renaissance right now, and I think if you were to stack this up against your 28 Days Laters and against some of these other ones,
it won't hold.
It's not going to hold up as well. So it made it to 5th place. I think it's an interesting watch. You know?
I would agree with that.
So there. I don't think you're going to like how high World War Z ranked. All the way
that's
in
all right.
4th place, I'm putting The Seventh Moon. And it really is the execution. I think that the script is solid. I think that the cast is solid. I like that they used a real tradition to tell this scary story. I just hate the shaky cam, and I hate how dark some of those sequences are. Like, I'm not legally blind. I'm not belittling you. I'm just saying I'm not.
No, it's all good, man.
I'm not legally blind, and I had trouble making out some of the shit that was going on, and that is a mistake. You have to know where everybody is and what you're looking at, or what is this. It's hurt by the shaky camera. You're not Greengrass, and if you're not doing a found footage movie, put the camera where it will best tell the story. That is the one thing that I really think hurt this movie, because everything else I actually really quite like. Those creatures are spooky looking.
The creatures were pretty well done.
And I like Amy Smart as an actress. She keeps showing up in horror movies that are so-so.
Yeah.
Like The Butterfly Effect or Mirrors, but I always like her in it. Like, she's good.
Yeah, she's good. I got no problems with her.
So, if you can handle the shaky camera, I say take a look at Seventh Moon, but if that's a problem for you, beyond this point, do not pass.
I respect your position on it.
So somehow, all the way in 3rd place, I'm giving World War Z, and I think
I knew you'd rank it higher. So
for me, it's the big budget zombies. Like Mark Forster, in presentation, gave us some of the highest scale zombie footage that I've ever seen. That opening sequence in the middle of the downtown, where we're seeing hundreds of people swarming and running. The walled city, the airplane, like these isolated moments are fantastic. Strangely, all the isolated moments don't add up to an amazing movie, but those isolated moments are good enough that I would say, yes, it's worth a watch. But don't walk away thinking that you know anything about World War Z, because you don't.
The most interesting part for World War Z for me was when the credits were rolling and I saw Peter Capaldi as Dr. WHO, World Health Organization. This was before he became Doctor Who. So Doctor Who. That was my revelation for the movie. I'm like, Anyway.
Well played, movie. Well played. In 2nd place, and it was a near thing, because I wanted to put Pontypool at number 1. I'm going to put Pontypool. It's unlike any zombie movie you'll ever see. And how many zombie movies can you say that?
Very few.
Very few. Which is why it almost deserves to be at number 1, but I'm not going to do it.
It was really close. It was really close, yeah.
Great acting, Canadian made, and proudly set in Canada. You see so many Canadian made movies
that are set in America.
They pretend to be in the States.
No, set that shit in Canada.
Yeah.
Own it.
Be Canadian and be proudly Canadian.
Mm-hmm.
And because this is set in Canada, it does not hurt its entertainment value. It's just, if you were to watch this in America, I don't know how, it's a bunch of Canadians, so I don't care what's going on.
Exactly.
No, if you give a shit about zombie cinema, it doesn't matter if they're Australian or if they're Kiwis or if they're Canadians, right?
A good movie is a good movie.
Just be Canadian. And they were, and it's a really, really good movie. Once again, if you have a chance to look at it again, that post-credit scene. Somebody explain it.
I'm going to look it up as soon as I get home.
Yeah, number 1 is Dead Set, which is interesting because it doesn't break the mold. Like, we started this whole conversation talking about how if you're going to do a zombie movie, you better bring something. And other than the fact that it's a live broadcast reality TV show, so they use some of the angles that you would see in watching the Big Brother show, that's about it. Like, it's a fairly conventional zombie movie with fairly conventional zombie movie stuff, executed perfectly. Perfectly. It comes out to about 2 hours and 20 minutes if you watch it all at once, and I do recommend you just watching it up. Breaking it up doesn't really do anything for it. It's a movie, and it is a fucking good zombie movie.
Great movie.
And it's one that I want to sell to the people out. Find it.
Find Dead Set.
Dead Set is awesome, but with a close second to Pontypool. If you haven't seen Pontypool, it's very, 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 very worth your time. So...
Well, our top 2 were the same.
Top 2 were the same. Everything else is a little bit... We still love zombies, and we're not scrapping.
Oh, of course not.
I mean,
of course not.
I think the biggest disagreement was obviously World War Z.
Obviously.
But we both know where we stand on that. So.
Definitely. I did it out of spite more than anything, so I'm a very spiteful man.
Thank you, Rick. Is there anything you'd like to say to the people on the internets out there?
To the people on the internet, keep the love of the zombies going.
Absolutely.
If they stop making the zombie movies, I don't know what I'll do.
Well... Like I say, the Renaissance is starting to die down, but I keep on saying sooner or later you're going to get tired of superheroes, and that doesn't happen.
I know, but what happens was when the Renaissance dies down, you end up back to quality, not quantity. Right? We're into quantity right now, last 10 years. Yeah. We'll revert back to people doing quality over quantity.
I think that's the same bubble that we're in with found footage, because a single camera perspective helps to make your film very affordable. A lot of micro budget filmmakers are trying to do found footage, and people are just getting worn out on it.
Well, you can make it on your phone nowadays, right?
It's been done.
Yeah.
So, like, the form is changing a little bit, but I say embrace it. Embrace it. If you can fight through a dozen bad zombie movies so that you can find Dead Set, fight through a half dozen bad found footage to find that one that really works.
Because they're out there.
Because when they work, that's the thing about found footage. When they work, they're really good. They're like comedies. It's like a comedy. If a comedy fails, it fails huge, right? There's nothing worse than somebody saying, "Here's my laugh line." And crickets. And that's like someone jumping out and going boo and crickets. It's the same thing.
At some point, we'll discuss the Diary of the Dead at some point in time.
When it works, it works, and when it doesn't, it doesn't. But don't give up on the zombies, and don't give up on found footage. And if you're bitchy about both of them, watch the Wreck franchise, and it will cure you.
It'll revitalize you.
Thanks a bunch, bro.
Yeah, no problem.
And there it was, 6 zombie movies reviewed and ranked. Thank you so much for listening to Rank and Review, and if you're asking yourself, how can I help the show? And I hope you are. You can help the show by liking it on Facebook, by giving me a positive review on iTunes, by telling your other movie friends about it. Word of mouth is my friend. I really want to get some ears on this podcast. You like it, tell someone. And tell me what you'd like me to do to make it better. You can write me at ranknreview@gmail.com. That's ranknreview@gmail.com. Also, check out the website at ranknreview.ca, because I am Canadian. Thank you so much for supporting Rank and Review, and I hope you continue to do just that.